Ladies and gentlemen, let me be honest with you for a moment. Life will hit you. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't check your schedule. It hits, and it hits hard. And when it does, it brings pain. It brings doubt. It brings thoughts that whisper, you can't, you're not enough. Why even try? But I stand before you today, not because life spared me, but because I chose to fight. I chose to rise. I chose to wrestle with my pain and tame the chaos in my mind. And I'm going to share with you how I deal with the pain and the negative thoughts that try to stop me every single day. When it comes to dealing with pain, the first step is often the hardest, acknowledging it. So many of us spend our lives running from discomfort, pretending it doesn't exist, or burying it deep inside until it bursts out in ways we can't control. But avoidance doesn't heal anything. It only delays the process of moving forward. The moment we give ourselves permission to see the pain for what it is, to name it and face it directly, we take the first real step toward freedom. Pain is not a weakness. It's a signal, a message that something in our life needs attention. When we ignore it, we let it fester in the shadows of our minds, feeding fear, anger, and doubt. Acknowledging pain doesn't mean celebrating it or letting it define us. It means recognizing that it exists, that it has weight, and that it has the potential to teach us something about ourselves. Acknowledgement begins with honesty. We have to be willing to look in the mirror and say, this hurts. I feel broken. I feel angry. I feel lost. It's not glamorous. It's not easy. And for many, it feels almost impossible. But here's the truth. Pain loses its power the moment we name it. Once we admit it out loud, even to ourselves, it begins to lose its grip. We start to see it not as a permanent state, but as a part of our story, a chapter that can be written over with courage, resilience, and action. This process also requires self-compassion. We tend to be harsher with ourselves than anyone else could ever be, condemning ourselves for feeling what we feel. But pain is universal. It's human. Acknowledging it is not a flaw. It is strength. When we give ourselves the grace to feel fully, to sit with the discomfort without judgment, we create the space for healing to start. It allows us to understand the roots of our suffering, to see patterns, triggers, and areas of growth that were invisible when we were in denial. Finally, facing pain is an act of empowerment. It is a choice to stop hiding and start engaging with life as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. Pain has a voice, and when we listen, we gain insight, clarity, and ultimately the ability to transform it into something that strengthens us rather than breaks us. This acknowledgement is not the end of the journey. It's the foundation upon which everything else is built. Negative thoughts are like shadows that creep into the corners of our minds, whispering doubts and fears when we least expect them. They are persistent, convincing, and sometimes so subtle that we barely notice how much power we give them over our decisions and emotions. The first step in dealing with these thoughts is to recognize them for what they are, not facts, not predictions, not truths, but fleeting mental patterns that can be challenged and changed. So often we accept negative thoughts as reality, repeating them in our minds until they shape how we feel, how we act, and even how we see ourselves. By simply noticing these thoughts and labeling them as separate from who we are, we begin to break the cycle of self-sabotage. Once we recognize a negative thought, we have the opportunity to confront it. Ask yourself, is this thought based on evidence or fear? Is it helping me, or is it holding me back? By questioning the validity of these thoughts, we remove the automatic acceptance that allows them to dominate our minds. For example, when a thought tells us, I'm not good enough, we can counter it with reflection on our past successes, our strengths, or even the courage it takes to face challenges every day. This act of challenging the thought is not denial or pretending everything is perfect. It's creating space for a more balanced perspective. Replacing negative thoughts with constructive alternatives is a crucial step. It's not about forcing happiness or ignoring difficulties. It's about shifting the internal conversation to one that empowers rather than diminishes. Affirmation, self-talk, or reframing situations can redirect the mind towards solutions, growth, and understanding Over time, these practices retrain the brain, reducing the automatic pull of negativity and creating a mental environment where resilience can grow. It's also important to notice patterns in our negative thoughts. They often follow a loop triggered by stress, fear, or past experiences. By observing these patterns, we can anticipate them and respond with intention rather than reaction. This awareness transforms the mind from a passive battleground into an active participant in shaping our reality. Challenging negative thoughts is not a one-time act. It is a daily practice. It requires patience, persistence, and the willingness to confront discomfort. But each time we do, we reclaim control over our minds, reduce the influence of fear, and create a foundation for peace, clarity, and forward momentum. Our thoughts do not have to define us. We have the power to define them. When life gets heavy and our minds are crowded with pain and doubt, finding perspective becomes one of the most powerful tools we can use. It's easy to get lost in the moment, to feel like the weight we carry is endless and personal, but stepping back and connecting our struggles to something larger can transform the way we experience them. Whether through faith, personal values, or a sense of purpose, seeing our challenges in a broader context gives them meaning beyond mere suffering. It doesn't erase the difficulty, but it shifts the lens through which we view it, allowing us to respond with intention rather than react with despair. Perspective begins with reflection. It requires pausing in the chaos and asking ourselves, what is this moment trying to teach me? How can this struggle shape me into someone stronger, wiser, or more compassionate? Pain often carries lessons disguised as obstacles, but only those who slow down enough to look can uncover them. By connecting our experiences to a higher purpose, we see that our suffering is not random and our struggles are not wasted. They are part of a journey, a process of becoming, a path that can lead to growth, empathy, and resilience. Faith, in whatever form it takes, can serve as a guiding anchor. Believing in something greater than ourselves, whether it is a higher power, the universe, or a vision of our best self, creates a sense of support and direction. It reminds us that we are not alone and that our challenges are part of a bigger plan that we may not yet fully understand. This perspective reduces the feeling of being trapped and offers a foundation for hope even when circumstances seem overwhelming. Purpose also grounds us. When we identify what truly matters, we gain clarity about how to navigate hardship. Pain becomes a signal to align more closely with our values, to take action that reflects who we are or who we aspire to be. This connection between struggle and meaning turns obstacles into stepping stones rather than dead ends. Finally, perspective gives us patience and resilience. It allows us to endure pain without being consumed by it, to experience life fully while maintaining a sense of direction and hope. By reframing our challenges as part of a larger picture, we take control of the narrative in our lives. We transform from victims of circumstance into active participants in our growth, using every struggle as an opportunity to rise higher and live more intentionally. Pain, when understood and embraced, can become one of the most powerful forces in our lives. Instead of allowing it to paralyze us, we can choose to channel it into action, turning discomfort into a catalyst for growth. Every hardship, every setback, and every moment of struggle carries energy within it. That energy can either be wasted in frustration and despair, or it can be harnessed to fuel determination, creativity, and progress. The key is learning to see pain not as a wall that blocks our path, but as a fire that ignites our potential. Transforming pain into action begins with acknowledgement and acceptance. Before we can redirect its energy, we have to fully feel it, name it, and understand its source. Pain has a way of sharpening our awareness, exposing areas of our lives that need attention, healing, or change. Once we see the lessons hidden within the struggle, we can convert those lessons into concrete steps that move us forward. It might be taking on new challenges, developing skills we've neglected, or confronting fears we've long avoided. The moment we act, even in small ways, we reclaim control over our narrative and refuse to be defined by suffering. Action inspired by pain also has the power to create meaning. When we use hardship as motivation to achieve, to build, or to help others, we give purpose to our struggles. Pain becomes more than an obstacle, it becomes the raw material for transformation. Many people find that the very challenges they once dreaded end up shaping them into stronger, wiser, and more compassionate versions of themselves. By moving forward deliberately, we prevent negativity from consuming us and instead turn it into a driving force for positive change. Another aspect of this process is courage. Acting in the face of pain requires us to step outside our comfort zones, to risk failure, and to confront uncertainty. It is through these courageous acts that pain loses its grip and begins to serve us rather than hinder us. Every effort we make, no matter how small, chips away at the power of despair and reinforces our belief in our own resilience. Finally, transforming pain into action is a continual practice. Life will keep presenting challenges, but by consistently choosing to move through them with purpose, we build momentum and strength. Pain remains, but its meaning evolves. It becomes a teacher, a motivator, and a companion on the journey, guiding us toward growth, achievement, and a life shaped not by suffering, but by our response to it. No one can navigate life's pain and negative thoughts entirely alone. The journey becomes infinitely harder if we try to carry the weight by ourselves. Surrounding ourselves with the right people, those who uplift, challenge, and remind us of our worth, is essential for resilience and growth. Support systems provide more than comfort. They offer perspective, accountability, and encouragement when our own strength feels depleted. Having people who genuinely care allows us to process our struggles without judgment, to be heard and understood, and to receive guidance when our minds are clouded by doubt. Building a support system begins with intentionality. It's not about the quantity of people around us, but the quality. We need relationships where honesty, empathy, and mutual respect exist. These are the people who can hold space for our pain without minimizing it, who can reflect truth back to us when negative thoughts distort our perception, and who inspire us to rise when we feel stuck. A strong support system reminds us that we are not isolated in our experiences, that others have faced similar challenges, and that strength can be borrowed, learned, and shared. Support systems also act as mirrors for our growth. When we are surrounded by individuals who believe in our potential, it becomes easier to believe in ourselves. Their encouragement and feedback help us recognize our own resilience and progress, even when we feel like giving up. They challenge us to confront patterns of negativity and push us to take actions aligned with our goals and values. In moments of pain or discouragement, a trusted voice can redirect us from self-defeating thoughts towards solutions and forward movement. Equally important is being willing to accept support. Sometimes pride or fear makes us resist reaching out, convincing us that we must face our struggles alone. Yet accepting help is not weakness, it is wisdom. It acknowledges that human connection is a source of strength, and that leaning on others can make us stronger, not dependent. Finally, support systems create a sense of belonging. Feeling seen, valued, and understood fosters emotional resilience and combats the isolation that often intensifies pain and negative thinking. By cultivating relationships that nurture, challenge, and sustain us, we create a network that strengthens our ability to endure hardships, recover from setbacks, and transform pain into purpose. We do not have to face life's storms alone, and when we embrace the power of community, our journey becomes lighter, clearer, and far more courageous. Guarding the mind is one of the most important practices for anyone who wants to rise above pain and negative thoughts. Our thoughts shape our emotions, our decisions, and ultimately the trajectory of our lives. If we allow our minds to be invaded by fear, doubt, and negativity, we give those forces the power to dictate how we feel and act. That's why developing daily habits that strengthen mental clarity and resilience is essential. The mind is like a garden. If we neglect it, weeds of worry, anger, and discouragement take over. But with intentional care, discipline, and focus, we can cultivate thoughts that nurture growth, peace, and purpose. Daily discipline begins with awareness. We must pay attention to the quality of our thoughts, noticing when negativity or self-doubt begins to creep in. This requires honesty and vigilance. By recognizing destructive patterns early, we can intervene before they spiral into overwhelming emotions or unproductive behaviors. Awareness allows us to choose what we feed rather than being passively swept along by mental chaos. Intentional practices are key to maintaining mental strength. Reflection, meditation, journaling, or prayer can create moments of stillness that recalibrate the mind and provide clarity. These practices act like mental workouts, training the brain to focus on what is constructive and true rather than being hijacked by fleeting fears or doubts. By consistently engaging in these habits, we reinforce the pathways in our minds that support resilience, creativity, and problem solving. Another critical aspect is self-talk. The way we speak to ourselves influences our confidence and ability to cope with challenges. Replacing negative internal dialogue with affirmations rooted in reality strengthens our self-perception and encourages proactive behavior. Over time, this disciplined approach transforms how we experience pain and adversity. Guarding the mind also means setting boundaries, limiting exposure to toxic influences, whether people, media, or environments, protects mental energy and prevents unnecessary stress. Surrounding ourselves with positivity, inspiration, and constructive challenges reinforces the habits we are building and creates a supportive environment for growth. Ultimately, practicing daily mental discipline empowers us to respond to life rather than react to it. It allows us to navigate pain with clarity, confront negative thoughts with purpose, and maintain a sense of control even in the midst of chaos. By protecting and cultivating our minds every day, we create the foundation for resilience, peace, and the ability to rise above any obstacle that comes our way. As we come to the close of this journey together, I want you to take a moment and reflect on something crucial. Pain and negative thoughts are not enemies. They are signals, teachers, and sometimes guides. They show us where we need to grow, what we need to confront, and how strong we can become when we refuse to be defeated. The real victory does not come from avoiding hardship. It comes from facing it, wrestling with it, and choosing to rise anyway. Remember, you are not defined by your struggles or by the thoughts that try to hold you back. You are defined by the courage you show in confronting them, by the daily choices you make to challenge your mind, to seek support, and to act with purpose. Each small step forward is a triumph, and each moment of resilience builds a foundation for a stronger, wiser, and more empowered you. So as you leave here today, carry this with you. Acknowledge your pain, confront your negative thoughts, find your purpose, take action, lean on those who lift you, and guard your mind every single day. Your journey is not about avoiding the storm. It's about learning to dance in the rain, to rise above, and to let every challenge transform you into the best version of yourself. You have the power within you. Claim it. Thank you.